Real estate can learn a lesson from the G.I. Joe's cartoon from the 80s on Saturday mornings. All right, let's hear it. This is the real story with Adam and Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian,
And I'm Sherry Hutchens.
and this is where we talk about all things real estate, mainly for our clients, some for our colleagues, and really because we just like hanging out with each other. Before we get to our topic for the day, Sherry, why don't you tell us any market updates? What's going on this week?
Well, we got something into contract this week.
Oh,
We
that's
had a new
good.
listing. Yeah. We had a new listing come on last Friday. And by Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we had multiple offers.
That was very nice. That house was looked really great from where it
Yes.
started, and
Yep.
the fresh paint, a little updating here and there, but
Yep.
really just made it so that somebody could move in, and multiple offers. That was nice. Which
Yeah.
is actually those multiple offers is part of what prompted our topic for this week.
Hmm.
And that motto from the GI Joe is they'd do PSA, public service announcements, and they'd say, "Now you know, and knowing is half the battle." And you wish that agents would know, and that would be half their battle, and it would help them write a winning offer. Because in this case, the second offer that we got wasn't a bad offer, but just little details didn't quite match up to the other one. You want to talk a little bit about those terms and
I
what
do.
what makes them better than one term better than another?
Yep. Just want to do a disclaimer that I was not the target audience for G.I. Joe in the 1980s. So
What? I
I'm
can't
just going
believe
with it.
that.
I know it's shocking, but whatever you say, because I know you were the target audience.
You probably didn't watch He-Man or She-Ra either.
I don't think I did.
All right. Okay, carry on.
It's amazing that you partnered with me.
I know.
Okay, offers. So it's kind of interesting. We thought we were going to have, well, actually, you thought we were going to have two or three. I thought we were going to have six or seven. There was quite a bit of activity swirling around. And the first offer came in well before it was due at 1 o'clock. And it seemed like a pretty good offer, don't you think?
It was a strong offer.
Yep, strong offer, significantly over the list price. And the terms weren't exactly what we had hoped for, but in a quote unquote normal market, it would have been a really good offer. And then at 1 o'clock, we had a second offer come in. And as it turned out, those were the only two that we got. And the second offer was written by a local agent who was familiar with the practices in our market. And it was strong. It was only a little higher cost wise or offer wise than the first offer that came in. But in terms of the terms, can I say in
In
terms of the terms?
terms of
In terms of the terms, it was
they were
excellent.
endearing terms.
They were in terms of endearment.
Yeah, there you go. They were
Har,
terms.
har, har. I
Yeah, yeah.
saw that in the 80s.
All right.
Uh,
Well, there's something. I'm trying to reach your demographic. Equal
exactly.
opportunity. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, great terms, a very buttoned up agent. She knew what we were expecting to see and she provided it. It had a contingency removal document attached to it with a full contingency removal. It had her AVID, her agent visual inspection disclosure, completely filled out and signed by the buyer, which is not an easy document to do in short notice, but she had really covered her bases and done a good job on that one. It had a buyer inspection waiver, which we were happy to see because we don't often get those attached to even non-contingent offers, but we had done a full slate of inspections and provided them in the disclosure packet. And she waived her inspections because they went through them. She went through them with her clients and they understood what was going on. And that turned out to be the best offer.
Yeah.
Um,
And largely, like you said, because of the terms, because the price was almost negligible.
yeah,
And we should note that it's never compelled to for buyers on our listings to write non contingent
right.
and with all those extras that you just mentioned. But if a buyer is prepared to do those things, it makes it
Mhm.
easier for a seller to accept them. Certainly not required.
Right.
And that's part of the dynamics of the difference between these two offers. The agent who wrote the one offer that wasn't accepted wrote a good offer. There really wasn't anything to sniff at it to say
Nope.
you were incomplete on something, but it was just one going a little bit extra than the other. And we don't know for a fact, but this person looks like they operate in a slightly different market than where this
Mhm.
listing was,
Yep.
and I think they were helping because the person was selling a house in that other market, and so they just
Yeah.
wanted to use the same agent because they like the
Yep.
agent, which we love it when clients choose us,
Yep.
because they like working with us, and but we know our limits about going to other markets and how difficult they can be. That being said, we've been pulled into other markets, and we will often make it really clear, not often, every
Mhm.
time, this is not our market. There will definitely be some places that we won't work.
Mhm.
Just kind of, it just doesn't, we really don't know enough to work in
Well, we
those.
did that with Livermore last year. Remember, we sat down with the clients who knew us. They wanted to work with us because they knew us and they felt comfortable with us. But we still had a conversation with them about the fact that we are not Livermore agents. We do not work there on a regular basis, and that it was possible that they might be in better hands with a local agent. And they thought about it and elected to go with us anyway. But at least we had that conversation because from Walnut Creek, Lafayette, Concord, it's a long ways to Livermore, and things are different down there, as we found out the day we had brokers tour.
Yeah. Well, we've done a couple transactions there recently, so it's not like we didn't have any experience,
Mhm.
but it was kind of funny because we prepped the house like we always do, and
Yep,
the house looked great.
yep.
Those particular
Transformed it.
Yeah, those particular sellers, talk about super rewarding. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't think of few other comments that have really given me satisfaction. I think you feel the same way. That client, when they wrote the review, said that we allowed them to retire. Like
yeah,
they
yes,
needed to get out of that house and into a different situation, and
yep,
by helping them get into a different situation, the wife could retire and take care
yeah.
of the husband who
And
had
the
some.
90-year-old husband who was perfectly healthy and perfectly with it,
Yeah.
still, did
Yeah.
not have to be worrying about money and, things like that. So
Yeah.
talk about a why. That's a why.
That's a why, exactly. But painted, freshened up carpet in a couple bedrooms, the normal polishing here and there was a couple light fixtures and things like that.
Mhm,
We go to do brokers tour, and the the realtors, for those of you who don't know, in the realtor association, they often will have a meeting in the morning of brokers tour, then they'll all go tour the homes that are on sale for on broker tour that day. And
mhm.
so this group of agents coming on that tour came in, and their first comments to us were, "You must not be from the area." And I was like, Well, no, we're not." And I was like, "Is it just because you don't recognize our names?" Which is a normal assumption. And why? Tell everybody, why did they all know instantaneously that we were not from the area?
Because the city council had passed a law saying that you could not have signs on the sidewalk or in the streets. They were prohibited. And what did we do when we set up our brokers tour? We put signs everywhere.
Yeah. Put out the normal town. Mostly, it's usually like up to 6, and it's got to be within a mile and no farther away than the
Yeah.
closest major intersection. So we just
Yep.
did the normal things. Here's from the major street into our neighborhood to our house. Normal best practices everywhere but Livermore.
I think they were probably driving by and saw the sign and said, "Oh, let's go tell these people."
Because apparently the city has been collecting them, and that you have to
Yes.
go pay a ransom to get your signs back.
I had that
Um,
happen to me in San Ramon. They
yeah,
went and picked up 5 signs one time. They didn't prohibit them. I just had them in the wrong place. I was new. And
yeah.
they had this little meter maid guy who went around and picked up all the signs. And when I went to the police department that afternoon to bail them out at $25 per sign, they had a room filled with real
Yeah,
estate signs.
yeah, yeah.
So kind of
And
crazy.
and we had sold in Livermore in the last, I think, I don't know, maybe 2 years. I think it was
Mhm,
the
yep.
last sale, and so it wasn't like we hadn't been there and
Well, I grew
not.
up there, for heaven's
Well,
sake.
exactly. You and Randy Johnson, that baseball player Randy Johnson.
Oh, yes, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And Joe Foreman lived there. Joe Foreman, is that who that is? The boxer?
Oh, yeah. No, what
George
George
Foreman,
Foreman, yeah. Joe
Joe's
Frazier.
brother.
Joe Frazier, yeah.
It was George Foreman. You know how I know that? Because I worked at a flower shop when I was in high school, and I had to deliver flowers to him once a week because he wanted flowers in his house. So
That doesn't surprise me. He had a certain style about him that was just down home, and yeah.
yeah, nothing
Randy
like,
Johnson's sister lived across the street from me. This is a funny story.
oh, interesting.
And her husband subscribed to a girly magazine, but somehow it got the address had his name on it, but came to our house. And my mom thought that I had like and so she like every
Subscribe.
time the mail she was throwing it away, and then finally sometime it came out, and I'm like, I don't, because it had the last name had the same initial, but it was like, no, it's not mine. And then sometimes Randy would park. He drove a K5 Chevy Blazer, and he would sometimes park it kind of in front of our house with this big Seattle Mariners sign off the back, or Arizona Diamond's back. It's like, excuse me, this is an A's athletic fan house. My mom was a season ticket holder. You need to move that. You need to move it now. So,
That's
so
funny.
yeah. So we share Randy a little bit from your hometown, but he parked
All
his
right.
rig at my house.
Yes, I had moved out by the time he was in Livermore. Well, before I was aware he was in Livermore. So
Yeah,
to be honest, I didn't have a clue who he was. So,
I
but
did.
anyway,
Didn't he go to the other high school? He went to Granada.
he went to Granada. I went to Livermore.
All right.
Probably a few years apart.
Not many.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we should
All
look him
right.
up sometime.
All right.
All right,
We'll
we're
put it.
totally distracted. We're talking about knowing your market. Um,
Yes. So the other agent, well, oh no, we were talking about Livermore.
yeah.
The
So we had a opportunity to go work in San Francisco, which kind of surprised me.
Mhm.
And I actually kind of was resistant because San Francisco is
Yes,
a
you were.
special market. They actually
Yep,
use all their own forms, not the regular California Association Realtor forms.
that is correct.
And these clients we met because we were showing them homes in Orinda, which is our market.
Yes,
And they were living in the city. And at some point, they decided they did not want to move to the suburbs, that they just liked living in the city too much. Plus, she worked at USF,
Pacific,
Big Medical Center.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
right down the
So,
street from her. She could walk to work.
right. And so they on their own, like literally like a week after we showed them a house here, they were like, all right, we found a house we want to buy. Will you represent us? Because they decided that they liked us that much. And so we had to do full disclaimer. Well, Sherry used to live in San Francisco and has done a couple of transactions over the years. And I'm like, I know nothing. I know they do tenants in common on a lot of houses, which is different than condos, and you should understand that. And I do understand that. But I was like,
Yeah.
beyond that. So what are some of the things that because this client actually knew that we were not agents, but or not San Francisco agents, but still wanted to work with us? What were some of the things that we learned about the San Francisco market?
You think we have a lot of disclosures out here? They have a lot of disclosures over there, related to oil tanks buried in the backyard from back before people had electricity, and um, things related to retrofitting for earthquake safety. And I can't remember what it's called, where they have to put the strengthening around the garage doors because the garages are on the bottom and the houses are on the top. And that was one of the problems during the 1989 earthquake with the garages collapsing, and then the whole building collapses.
Yeah. Yeah, the
I mean,
garage doors everywhere is a weak point. And I forget they had a specific name for it, like zero storm
yeah,
or something like that.
you've got to do a permit history search, which is not a bad idea. That should
I
be done
love that
everywhere.
idea. I
Yep.
wish that was more regular because
Yep.
our our legal department doesn't let us do permit searches for
Yeah.
either list housings that we're listing or housings that we're representing buyers,
Yep.
in case we get the information wrong or it's incomplete. And so we
Yep.
just have to tell our clients to go find it themselves. And we direct them. It's not like, hey, you're on your own, but like, here's the government website. Go look.
And I
Um,
think over there, the city prepares that document.
I think so too, yeah. And then
Yeah.
there's like they have an energy survey that they have to
Yep.
show, like this is what
Yep.
it costs energy wise to own this building
Yep.
for a year, that sort of thing. Just really valuable information
Yeah.
that I think would benefit buyers everywhere. And
I
part of
agree.
the
I absolutely
disclosures.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the seller had done pre-sale inspections, so all of that was done. And, with the disclaimer to our clients that we weren't usually working in San Francisco, but that I actually knew how to get to the condo, and park up front, which I think was one of your concerns. Where is it? How are we
Yeah.
going to find the house?
Well, so here's the thing. If you're going to move in, you have to get a permit to block the street.
Yeah.
for moving trucks, and you've
Yeah.
got that, and there's certain time frames, and they'll come, the city will come put the signs up for you, but it costs a permit to move in and move out,
Yeah.
depending on what neighborhoods you're in.
Yeah.
And it was this beautiful 100-year plus old house, uh,
Oh, yeah, really beautiful. I think
and
it was an old Victorian that had been turned into condos.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely,
And
yeah.
this one happened to be at the very top of the building. I think there were 7 condos in it. And they were all a good size, you
And it
know.
had roof access that they could go,
Yeah.
potentially build a deck on the top of that and sit out on the deck and watch the
Yeah.
sunset. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a
Great location.
spectacular. Yeah, if you're gonna
Lots of
sell
shops
sell a
and
place
restaurants
in
and
San Francisco, that's the kind of place you want to sell.
yeah. I know you know I lived in the city for 22 years, and one of the things I still miss about living there is being able to walk out my front door and walk 2 blocks to a coffee shop or a restaurant or a grocery store, and we just don't have that out here. So,
Yeah, it's just not the same.
but
Not yeah.
anyway, that was
Urban
a fun
living,
transaction.
there are some really nice, charming things about urban living, and that's one of them.
Exactly.
Um,
So,
yeah. So I'm trying to think, were there any other like out of the area comments or stories that that can be a warning, or oh, I think you were telling me about a friend of yours who was again working with an agent that they liked, and they were going out of the area up to Petaluma to buy a house,
Petaluma, yeah.
and they were having a hard time getting an offer accepted. I think it was similar to the story that we started with, where they just
Yeah.
didn't know the kind of the ins and outs and what's expected. Oh no, I know the story we were going to tell that we were talking about was the San Bruno story.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
tell the San Bruno story.
Oh, yeah. When you're brand new, you want to take every possible client you can. And this was my old assistant from when I worked in advertising. And she and her husband were selling their home in San Bruno and moving out here to Concord. And they asked if I would represent them in San Bruno. And I thought, what the heck? I can represent them in San Bruno, even though my broker said, you might want to just refer that business out to another agent who is familiar with the area, which is the right thing to do. But Donna, my former assistant, was like, I don't want to work with anybody else. I only want to work with you. And so I went over there and I took the listing and I marketed it exactly the way I was taught to do it here, including disclosing in writing 2 non-permitted rooms, because that's what we do on this side of the
Right,
bay.
exactly. Yeah.
And then the buyer decides whether or not they can live with 2 unpermitted rooms or whatever the disclosure is. Well, what I didn't know was that San Bruno has a problem with people doing lots of work without permits. And if a neighbor turns in someone who has done something that's non-permitted, at that time they were getting a $500 check if it turned out to be true.
They had
And
a
I had it
snitch
in
law? They were paying for
they
your
had a
neighbors to be
snitch law.
snitches? Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Snitches, yes, snitchy San Bruno. And here I got a couple offers. We put somebody into contract. We're having a great escrow. I have written a offer in Concord, contingent on the closing of San Bruno. And 2 days before closing, I get a call from the building permit manager at San Bruno saying, "Oh, you have 2 unpermitted rooms, and we're stopping your escrow."
Gosh. Oh no.
Yeah,
Which of course
yeah.
puts the home that they were going to buy on ice also. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was not good. It
Yeah.
was not good.
Yeah, there's
So,
another
but it had a
saying.
happy ending.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It had a happy ending. They ended up allowing us to put $25,000 into an escrow account and do the work to show that the property or that the 2 rooms had been done in a permit-like manner,
Got it. Yeah.
so that they could approve it. And we went ahead and closed escrow, maybe only a couple days late, not 2 days like we thought we were going to, but it was a big lesson that if you're going to work outside your area, you better know what you're doing, because
Yeah.
you can be a detriment to your clients.
That gives a whole new meaning to if you don't disclose your neighbor well. That's there is another
We say that all
saying.
the time.
Yeah, there is another saying that came from the 80s. I'm not sure if it came from the 80s now that I think about it, but snitches get stitches. Now, I'm not saying that we should do
No.
physical assault on anybody who tells the truth. Just saying, you might think about it in the middle of the night when you're trying to problem solve. But but
That's
you
a
know,
new term.
yeah, the reality about that permit that the way you're just describing it really is the essence of why we have building permits, and that's so
Yeah.
that buyers of homes when they transfer can be confident that it was done safely and in
Yep.
a structurally sound way, so they don't have to worry about it falling down. And so,
Yep.
while it's an uncomfortable story, I think that we should all be mindful that that's the best way is to get permits if you're doing structural room additions and electrical and
Absolutely.
plumbing. It's really is best for everybody involved. And
Yep.
imagine if that house had been in San Francisco, you would have had to do a permit history anyway.
Yep.
So there
Yep.
you go.
Have you ever worked outside your area?
Um, no, I haven't.
Mhm.
I work so before we were partners, um, I I worked as far east as Pittsburgh, and then of
Mhm.
course because I grew up in Oakland, Alameda, I did work in Oakland, Alameda. That's as far as I had gone west.
Mhm.
And then I, all the way up the east side of the bay,
Mhm.
Richmond, Berkeley, that direction. But most of the work I did was right here, Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill,
Yep.
Concord, Clayton, kind of not just where we normally work, but where we live. And so we really know this market the best. And the great thing is because we work for a broker that has a referral network, when we've needed to refer people to San Luis Obispo or Sacramento, or even all the way across the country in Nashville and other places, we've been able to connect our clients with good, strong agents. In fact, we are going to, over the next couple weeks, we're going to have some more interviews with a couple of those agents that we've referred people to. So one is up in Sacramento, and then another one that I'm excited about is an old college friend. And her husband was a roommate of mine, and they have relocated, or I don't know how long they've been there, maybe 20 years in Louisiana. And so
Oh,
I'm
wow.
fascinated to hear about how real estate's a little bit different in
Oh,
Louisiana.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, I had worked with a couple family members trying to help them with some purchases in places like Georgia and Oregon, and those were very different experiences. And so I'm
Mhm.
curious about Louisiana. Sacramento, I think I can figure out,
Mhm.
but the partner agent that we work with often up there has helped a number of our clients and really is cream of the crop. So,
Yeah, we love her.
yep.
Love her. I've seen
All
a
right.
couple houses in Napa.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Probably 3 or 4, I think, over the years. Not recently, but I sold a really interesting one at the bottom of Cavedale Road. I don't know if you know Cavedale Road. It's off of Highway 12.
Okay.
And it all the way at the top is just these absolutely gorgeous, multi-million dollar homes. But down at the bottom, there was a fairly interesting house on a 1 acre lot backed up to a creek. And I had clients who wanted to buy that house. And I had done quite a bit of work with their mom, and she asked if I would write the offer for it.
Mhm.
And it was a whole different experience
Mhm.
because you have to deal with septic tanks up there, which we don't often have to deal with,
Yeah,
and with wells, and you've got to do water potability tests, which is
that's a
like,
deep subject.
it certainly was.
Sorry, sorry.
The seller was a character. He was the swim coach for Cal. And I
Oh,
thought for sure he was telling me a story because he seemed like just a total stoner. And I found out later that he probably was. But I remember going home that night after I met him in person and Googling him. And sure enough, he was the swim coach. But he didn't think we were going to close escrow. And while we were in contract, he remodeled the entire kitchen because I know, top to bottom. And we kept saying, we're not paying for that. He's like, I know, but you guys are not going to be able to close escrow. And when I put this back on the market, I want a new kitchen.
oh my gosh.
And the other thing, he had these two big outbuildings on the property. I had never seen anything like it. They were kind of like greenhouses, but they were hard metal, not soft,
Okay.
like you see
Okay.
down in Watsonville.
Yep.
Long,
Yep.
arched ceilings,
Yep.
full of lights and full of water, all electrical, all
Do,
water.
do you know when
And
he
they
was
were
growing?
well, let me tell you what he was growing. I said, I walked into one of them one day and he was always around. He was never, I mean, sellers aren't supposed to be on the property, but he was always there. And little naive me, who'd been in the business for a couple of years, said, "What in the heck did you use these for?" And he goes, "Well, I'm into Horticulture.
Recreational horticulture.
Uh-huh.
Recreational
I had
horticulture.
no idea. I figured out later, oh, no wonder he seems like a total stoner. He is a total stoner. So
Uh,
yeah,
all right.
my clients used it as storage. They were not growing any horticulture there.
Well, as long as we're talking about ornament or not ornamental, but recreational horticulture, I was talking with an appraiser one time, and they were telling me this story of, about how they went to go do this property inspection, and the appraisers go into every room to measure, and
Mhm.
there was this one room that was locked, and there was light coming out, so they knew somebody was in there, and so they talked to the owner and said, "Hey, I need to get in this room and measure it," and the owner said, "Oh, I was afraid you need to get in there." And so he goes and opens it, total grow room.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, 6-foot plants all the way around. And it's like the appraiser, because it was a federally regulated in the federal funded loan, the appraiser walked right out of the house and had to go back and report it. Like, it wasn't that so much that they cared that personally, but it was like from a lender standpoint, they just couldn't touch it. Uh,
Yeah, even though pot's legal in California, it is not legal in the United States, and all those
But I read
federal
this week
oversight.
that it's on Biden's agenda to move it off the whatever list it is of restricted, so that
Oh
possibly that
wow.
could change. So stay
Oh,
tuned,
interesting.
folks. Who knows? All
I
right, we went.
walked into a broker's tour one time up in Holbrook Heights in Concord.
Yep.
It was kind of seedy before the recession, and I was out touring, and I walked into the house and into the backyard, and there were pot plants out there that were taller than I was. And I turned around, went right back into the house, and said to the agent, did you see what's out there? Yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And he said, yes. And he shoved a piece of paper in front of my face, and it was a, a permit for medicinal marijuana. It was before it was legal. Um, but yeah, did you see what was out there?
Little Sherry, naive Sherry. Oh my gosh. I bet you
Like,
had
oh
more.
yeah, I've been working on this house for 3 months to get it on the market, and I didn't notice that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Checking your monitor for whiteout now. All right. This has been a wild and rambling podcast this week. Hopefully it's been entertaining. Kind of our catchphrase at the beginning was the now you know, and knowing is half the battle. So the theme that we were hoping you were grabbing was not about the legalization of pot, but going back towards the beginning where we were talking about it's important to work with agents who know the market you're in, and it can cost you if you don't. Even if you like working with somebody, it might not be best to work with them in every market.
Yeah, they
So
might not be the right person.
ask some really good questions, ask about their history in certain areas, and if you're at all doubt and you really like that person, ask them to refer you, because they can lead you in the right direction.
Yep.
All right. I think that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this enjoyable or entertaining, I hesitate to say education based on the last 5 minutes of it, but press subscribe and like. Sherry and I are not experts in the last 5 minute subject, but we are experts in real estate. So I hope you'll join us next week for next week's podcast of The Real
Yep.
Story with Adam and Sherry.
Yep.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.